He casually borrowed a box of food from a truck while changing clothes, stuffed himself, found a hospital, and then changed into some fresh clothes, saying goodbye to the life of a wanderer. To avoid being recognized, he even shaved off his beard. Meanwhile, the cops had already broadcasted Jinbo's info to all the hospitals in town. When Jinbo was about to leave, he ran into a detective. He quickly composed himself and pretended calmly, "Doctor, we're searching for a missing officer. He might have been injured hours ago." "What's he look like?" 6 feet tall, 180 pounds, blonde, yellow eyes, slightly yellow nose. "Any takers?" "Every time we're looking for a woman, except for his nose turning colors." Jinbo saw an injured person, so he stepped in to help. Surprisingly, it was the little black warning head saved. Before he could speak, Jinbo put an oxygen mask on him, acting like anesthesia doc. Jinbo jumped into the ambulance and kicked the door open to flee. Soon, the hospital reported the injured guard saw Jinbo. Just when Jones was curious about the ambulance's whereabouts, Agent Black's sister swooped in with the news that they found the ambulance north of Highway 53. With this info, Jones immediately took his crew up in a helicopter and, sure enough, spotted the speeding ambulance soon after. Jinbo noticed the overhead helicopter and sped the ambulance into the tunnel. Great minds think alike. As cop cars swarmed in, Jinbo was trapped in the tunnel. Seeing no escape, he dived into the sewer. When Jones and his team rushed in, they didn't spot Jinbo, but then he noticed the nearby sewer, so he ordered his men to pop the lid off the sewer. The agents began searching the sewer, while Jinbo was frantically looking for the exit, not daring to take a second of rest. After passing a ramp, Jones stumbled upon a rival, dropping his gun. When he managed to rise, Jinbo aimed a lost pistol at him. After this, Jinbo fled again as Jones calmly drew another weapon, ready to show his skills. When Jinbo reached the end of the pipe, he found himself blocked by a super tall outflow pipe, and with the pursuers closing in from behind, he had no choice but to surrender. Just as Jones approached, Jinbo bravely jumped down, catching the later agents by surprise at his reckless resolve. Everyone thought Jinbo couldn't survive such a fall, but Jones alone insisted on a rescue, trusting his instinct. Turns out Jinbo didn't die. He escaped downstream with the river and, after shaking off all the pursuers, found a public restroom and died to reduce the risk of exposure. Later that night, at the precinct, an agent received a tip about the fugitive's whereabouts. He was hiding out with a woman. Jones thought it was Jinbo and planned to strike later that night. Cops disguised themselves as drunks and movers, surrounding the target house for a surprise attack. When the criminals saw this, they took off running, but as soon as the agents closed in, they easily subdued one of them. They loudly warned everyone to back off, or they'd start shooting hostages. Jones quickly found himself a good hiding spot. The next moment, the fugitive was wiped out. However, Jones was down since the prisoner wasn't his desired Jinbo. Meanwhile, Jinbo called his lawyer to borrow money. But the lawyer was too scared to help a heavy criminal like Jinbo, so Jinbo had to hang up helplessly. Their conversation was entirely monitored by the police, proving Jones' instincts were right. Jinbo was still alive. After analysis, they heard train arrival announcements in the background, tracing it back to Chicago's merchandise market. Nobody expected Jinbo to return to Chicago. With one command, everyone jumped into action. Meanwhile, Jinbo found his colleague Charlie waiting at a traffic light. Charlie was shocked to see Jinbo. Jinbo said he needed money, and Charlie handed over all the cash he had on him. With the cash, Jinbo found a secluded suburban spot, rented a basement hideout, and began his revenge. He first visited the largest emergency hospital in Chicago, witnessing all kinds of will to survive, including the gear worn by the thug who attacked his wife. He then disguised himself as a doctor and headed to the information desk. He made noise, making staff think he was cleaning, then used the computer to screen patients with his info. After some digital rummaging, he finally narrowed it down to 5 suspicious patients, printing their info like a... Meanwhile, the police were trying every trick to pry information out of Jinbo's former colleagues. Unsurprisingly, Jinbo's best buddy Charlie and his female assistant both believed Jinbo was innocent. They couldn't uncover any valuable information, leaving the police with no choice but to give up. Just as Jinbo was about to leave with the info, he found himself blocked by a crowd in the hallway. He intended to wait, but a female doctor nearby called him over to help carry a boy to the 2nd floor, asking about his condition on the way. Times ill, he casually picked up a film for a glance, seen by the female doctor. In the elevator, Jinbo opened the form and changed the info. He even signed his name before handing it back to the doctor, realizing in that moment he was also playing the role of a doctor. However, upon stepping downstairs, he was stopped by the female doctor, who asked if he was interested in x-rays. Jinbo said it was just a hobby, but the female doctor didn't buy it. She had told him to take the boy to the second floor, yet he took him to the OR. The doctor swiftly took Jinbo's badge and reported to security, leaving him no choice but to bolt. When Jones caught wind of Jinbo's escape, he felt a wave of frustration instead. On hearing Jinbo sought the girl, Jones intensified his search. But Jinbo said he wouldn't go home. Just as Jones was gearing up to mobilize all resources, Jinbo's revenge plan was already in full swing during his escape.